If your best friend spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you still be friends? We talk to others with kindness, with care, with love, but when it comes to ourselves, our tone changes, doesn't it? We say things we'd never say to another human being. And that's where the real battle begins, not outside, but inside. When we say that our words create our world, it's not just a motivational slogan. It's neuroscience, it's psychology, and it's spirituality beautifully intertwined. The way you speak to yourself is not just communication, it's creation. Every word you repeat to your mind becomes a brick in the foundation of your reality. The more you say something, the more your brain wires itself to believe it. And what your brain believes, it begins to chase. Think about it. When you constantly tell yourself, "I'm not enough," your mind starts collecting evidence to prove it. It filters out every success, every compliment, every small win, and amplifies only your mistakes. Suddenly, your world feels smaller, darker, heavier. You start living in a mental cage built out of your own words. Not because life is cruel, but because the voice inside you keeps whispering, "You can't." But when you change that inner dialogue, the world outside you begins to shift, because your brain listens. Every thought you think, every word you speak, it's like a command your mind takes seriously. When you say, "I can handle this," your nervous system calms down, your posture changes, and your body prepares to act. When you say, "I'm learning," your brain opens new neural pathways to actually help you learn. When you say, "I'm hopeless," your brain shuts down the very motivation that could have saved you. Your words are like software, and your brain is the hardware. Whatever code you run, your life will execute. If the code is negative, expect errors. If it's empowering, expect results. This is why successful people guard their inner language so carefully. They don't just speak positively to sound good. They do it because they understand the power of self-programming. Even spiritually, words hold energy. The ancient scriptures, from the Bhagavad Gita to the Bible, all emphasize the power of the tongue. In the beginning was the Word. Creation itself started with speech. So imagine how much power is hidden in your words, spoken not to the universe, but to your own soul. And here's the truth. Your outer world is always a mirror of your inner words. If your inner world is filled with doubt, confusion, and self-criticism, your outer life will reflect chaos. But when your inner talk becomes nurturing, empowering, and hopeful, you start to notice opportunities, solutions, and peace that were always there. You just couldn't see them before. So start paying attention to what you say to yourself when no one is listening. Catch those phrases like, "I'm not ready," "I always fail," "I'm too old," or "it's too late." Replace them consciously. Don't just say, "I'm the best," if you don't believe it yet. Start gently. Say, "I'm improving, I'm learning, I'm growing." Those small shifts in vocabulary can shift your destiny, because your words are not empty. They are electric. They vibrate through your mind, shape your emotions, and influence your behavior. Change the script inside, and you'll watch your outside world begin to respond in ways you never imagined possible. The language of your self-talk is the language of your future. Speak wisely, because your words are building your world yourself. Talk is not just a reflection of how you feel in the moment. It is the seed from which your identity grows. Every time you describe yourself, even silently, you're sculpting your self-image. The words you repeat become beliefs. The beliefs become habits, and habits over time become you. We often underestimate how powerful repetition is. The human brain learns through patterns. It listens to what you say most often and quietly begins to accept it as truth. If you keep saying, "I'm lazy," your brain doesn't question it, it records it. If you keep saying, "I'm unlucky," your subconscious will start to notice every unlucky thing and ignore the moments of grace. Slowly, your mind begins to live inside the story you keep telling it. That's why identity is not built in a single moment of decision. It's built in 1,000 moments of self-description. Every phrase you attach to "I am" becomes a command to your brain. Woof, I am tired. Suk, I am stupid. Su, I am not good enough. These phrases are like small chains that tie your potential down, one link at a time. But the beautiful thing is, identity can be reprogrammed, because the same repetition that created a weak identity can also create a powerful one. Start saying, "One, I'm becoming more focused." Savais, I'm learning to be disciplined. It says, I'm healing. These are not lies. They are bridges between who you are and who you're becoming. Your mind doesn't resist progress. It resists finality. If you tell yourself, "I'm perfect," your brain rejects it. But if you say, "I'm improving," it believes you and begins to align with that statement. Let's take an example. Imagine two students. One says, "I'm terrible at math." The other says, "I'm learning how to get better at math." Both may have failed the same test. But the second student's brain is open to growth. His self-talk invites the brain to look for solutions, to practice, to persist. The first student's brain, however, has closed the door. It now believes failure is part of identity, not just a temporary event. The truth is, your brain is like fertile soil. Whatever words you plant there grow. If you plant doubt, you harvest hesitation. If you plant hope, you harvest strength. And just like a garden, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to water your identity with the right words daily. When you wake up, when you look in the mirror, when you face disappointment, that's when your inner language matters most. Because identity isn't about who you think you are when life is easy. It's about who you remind yourself you are when life is difficult. In those moments, your words can either break you or build you. When you whisper to yourself, "If I can handle this," even when you don't fully believe it, you are giving your nervous system direction. Your body starts to respond, your shoulders lift, your breathing slows, your courage strengthens. And remember, the mind loves consistency. The more consistent your self-talk is, the stronger your identity becomes. That's why people who succeed often say, "I knew I could do it," long before they actually could. They rehearsed that belief so many times that by the time success came, it wasn't a surprise. It was simply the result of their inner narrative. So, if you truly want to change your life, stop focusing only on your actions. Start focusing on the us words behind them. Because your actions are simply the echo of your self-talk. If you tell yourself you're a procrastinator, you'll keep delaying. But if you say, "I'm becoming more organized," you'll begin acting like someone who is. Speak to yourself as if your words are seeds. Because they are. Every sentence you repeat is shaping the person you will meet in the mirror tomorrow. So speak carefully. Speak kindly. And remember, you don't become what you wish for. You become what you say. You can't silence the voice in your head, but you can train it. That's one of the greatest truths you'll ever learn about the mind. You can't simply wake up one morning and say, "From today, I will stop thinking negatively," because that's not how the brain works. The mind doesn't respond to suppression. It responds to thirst direction. Trying to fight your thoughts only makes them louder. But guiding them, retraining them, transforming them, that's where real power begins. Think of your mind like a child learning to walk. It falls, it stumbles, it gets scared. You wouldn't yell at a child for falling, you'd help them stand up again. Yet that's exactly what many of us do with our own minds. When our thoughts get messy or fearful, we scold ourselves, we feel ashamed, we say, "What's wrong with me?" But nothing is wrong. Your mind is just untrained. It's been absorbing years of fear, judgment, comparison, and pain. You don't fix that by fighting it. You fix it by re-educating it. You see, the voice inside your head has learned its language from somewhere, from your parents' tone when you were young, from teachers, from society, from failure, from heartbreak. It repeats whatever it has heard the most. So if that voice sounds critical, impatient, or fearful, it's because that's what it was taught. And like any language, it can be unlearned and replaced with a new one. So when your mind says, "I can't do this," don't argue, don't panic, don't believe it blindly. Simply respond gently. "I'm learning how." When it says, "I always fail," say, "I'm growing stronger every time I try." When it says, "Nobody loves me," say, "I'm learning to love myself first." You are not lying to yourself. You are retraining your inner voice. You're giving it new vocabulary. Neuroscience calls this process neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on repetition. Every time you replace a negative thought with a healthier one, you're literally rewiring your brain. New neural connections begin to form and old destructive ones weaken. The same way a muscle grows stronger through consistent training, your self-talk becomes healthier through consistent redirection. But here is the key. You have to be patient. You can't expect years of negative conditioning to disappear overnight. Think of your mind like a wild horse. If you try to control it harshly, it will resist. But if you guide it gently, consistently, it will eventually trust your hand. Training your self-talk means listening to your thoughts with awareness, not judgment. It means observing your mental chatter like a teacher watching a student, with compassion, curiosity, and calm authority. There will be days when your old patterns come back, when you'll hear that familiar voice of doubt or fear. Don't get discouraged. Just remind yourself, "I'm training my mind." Every time you consciously shift a negative statement into a constructive one, you're building mental strength. It's like going to the gym. Every repetition counts, even if it feels small. And remember, the goal is not to have a perfectly positive mind. The goal is to have a disciplined mind. A mind that doesn't believe every thought it thinks. A mind that questions its fears instead of surrendering to them. A mind that knows how to redirect itself when it wanders toward negativity. That's real mental fitness. So when life throws challenges your way and your inner critic starts shouting, pause, take a breath, and talk back, not with anger but with guidance. "It's okay. I can handle this. I've been here before. I'm learning." This small inner dialogue becomes your spiritual training ground. Each response you give your mind is a message to your soul. "I'm in control now. I'm the one steering this ship." Over time, something beautiful happens. The negative voice grows quieter. The encouraging voice grows stronger. The space between reaction and awareness expands. You stop being the victim of your thoughts, and you start becoming their teacher. Because you cannot shut your mind up, but you can teach it how to speak differently. You can train it to serve you instead of sabotage you. And when that happens, life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but you do. You become calm in chaos. You become confident in uncertainty. And that, my friends, is when you realize the truth. Peace is not the absence of thoughts. Peace is the presence of training. The mirror is not just a piece of glass. It's your most honest companion. It never lies. It never flatters. It never judges. It simply reflects, and yet most of us stand in front of it and see only our flaws. We stare into it not to connect, but to criticize. We see a body that isn't enough, a face that's aging, eyes that carry exhaustion. And we forget that behind that reflection lies someone still growing, still learning, still becoming. The mirror doesn't show you failure, it shows you feedback. It doesn't show you who you are, it shows you where you are. Every morning, when you look into the mirror, you are face to face with the most influential person in your life, yourself. But most people miss that moment. They rush past it. They wash their face, brush their teeth, fix their hair, and never truly see themselves. The mirror becomes a routine, not a ritual. But if you slow down for just 30 seconds, if you look into your own eyes and speak with intention, that small moment can become life-changing. You see, psychologists and spiritual teachers both agree the mirror is a tool of awareness. It's where your internal conversation becomes visible. When you stand before your reflection and say, "I'm proud of you," even if it feels awkward, something happens deep inside. You bridge the gap between the person you were and the person you're becoming. Because affirmation through your own eyes carries an emotional weight nothing else can replace. Many people wait for others to validate them. A friend, a partner, a mentor. But the truth is, no one's approval can heal you if you keep disapproving of yourself. The mirror is the place where you give yourself the approval you've been begging for. It's where you remind your heart, "I am enough, even in my unfinished form." Let's be honest, there are days you look into that mirror and not like what you see. You'll see tired eyes, frustration, guilt, disappointment. On those days, don't look away. Stay. Breathe. That's not weakness looking back at you. That's a warrior who's been fighting battles no one else can see. When you speak to that reflection with compassion, when you whisper, "I know you're hurting, but we'll get through this," your brain hears you. Your heart believes you. You start to rebuild trust with yourself. There's a simple truth about the mirror. It reflects whatever you focus on. If you focus on your scars, you'll see pain. If you focus on your strength, you'll see growth. The reflection doesn't change. Your perception does. So use the mirror as a tool to train your focus. When you speak to yourself, shift from "look at my flaws" to "look how far I've come." Shift from "I hate this part of me" to "this part of me is healing." These small changes in self-dialogue start rewiring the way your mind perceives you. Try this. Stand before the mirror and smile, even if it feels forced. Say out loud, "I am learning. I am improving. I am worthy." You may not believe it right away, but belief is built through repetition. The more you affirm, the more your subconscious starts to accept it as truth. Because your brain doesn't know the difference between a lie and a future reality. It only knows what you repeat. And remember, the mirror doesn't only reflect your face, it reflects your focus. Every time you speak kindly to your reflection, you're not just boosting your mood, you're reshaping your self-image. You're teaching your brain what kind of person you are. Over time, that repeated Kindness builds confidence that radiates far beyond your bathroom. When you learn to face yourself in the mirror with love, you stop depending on the world to make you feel valuable. You stop chasing validation in likes, compliments, or comparisons. Because when you can look at yourself and say, I am enough right here, right now, that's real power. So make the mirror your first mentor and your most honest friend. Every morning, let it remind you of who you are becoming, not just what you look like. Talk to that reflection as you would to someone you deeply care about. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that those small conversations with your reflection were not small at all. They were the moments when you were quietly building a stronger, kinder, more grounded version of yourself. You don't need to wait for someone else to tell you your worth. The mirror is already waiting, not to judge you, but to listen. Look into your own eyes, speak gently, and say, I'm proud of how far you've come. Because sometimes the words that heal you most are the ones only you can say to yourself. What you say in private, you display in public. That one truth can change your entire life. We often think confidence, kindness, or courage are things we do in front of people. But in reality, they are habits we practice in silence. The words you speak to yourself when nobody's watching, that's the real rehearsal. Life is not a performance, it's a reflection. And the stage of your life will always project what's been rehearsed backstage. In your mind, in your solitude, in your self-talk. Think about it. Before you speak to anyone, you've already spoken to yourself. Before you walk into a meeting, before you post something online, before you share your heart with someone, there's always that inner conversation that happens first. You ask yourself, can I do this? Do I sound good enough? Will they like me? That inner conversation decides your energy long before you open your mouth. If that inner voice has been trained to criticize, to doubt, to fear, your body language will reflect it. You'll hesitate, you'll shrink, you'll play small. But if that inner voice has been trained to encourage, to guide, to uplift, your presence changes, you stand taller, you speak slower, you radiate calmness. That's because your outer expression always mirrors your inner language. You might have noticed there are people who don't say much, but when they walk into a room, you feel them. They're grounded, peaceful, confident but not arrogant. Why? Because their energy is aligned. Their inner voice is not at war with their outer image. They don't wear confidence like a mask. They've built it through their private conversations with themselves. You can't fake peace. You can't fake confidence. You can't fake joy. You might manage for a while, but sooner or later, the cracks show. Because whatever you speak privately will leak publicly. That's why people who constantly complain internally end up speaking negativity everywhere. People who judge themselves harshly end up judging others too. And people who practice kindness within radiate warmth without even trying. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people preparing for the same opportunity. One stands before the mirror and says, I'm probably going to mess this up. I always do. I hope they don't laugh at me. The other stands there and says, I've prepared for this. I might not be perfect, but I'm going to give my best. Both of them walk into the same room, but one carries tension, the other carries trust. Who do you think the audience will respond to more? Not because of talent, but because of tone. And your mind is like a rehearsal room, and your words are the script. Every time you talk to yourself, you're rehearsing for your next moment in life. The tone you use in solitude, becomes the rhythm of your voice in public. That's why self-talk isn't just about feeling better. It's about being better. It's training your nervous system, your confidence, and your emotional balance for when real life begins to test you. When you privately tell yourself, if I can handle this, your body starts preparing to handle it. Your heart rate stabilizes. Your breathing slows. Your muscles relax. You walk into situations differently, not because they're easier, but because you've rehearsed calmness. When you say to yourself, I'm grateful, your perspective changes. You stop seeing obstacles and start seeing opportunities. Even spirituality echoes this idea. Every great teacher, from ancient philosophers to modern monks, has said that inner alignment creates outer harmony. Your thoughts, words, and actions must speak the same language. Otherwise, you live in conflict. If you say, I'm confident, but your inner voice says, I'm a failure, your energy becomes confusing, both to you and to everyone around you. That's why people sense authenticity. It's not about perfect words, it's about energetic truth. The version of you that the world meets is built in silence through the conversations you have with yourself when no one else can hear. So ask yourself, what am I rehearsing privately? Am I rehearsing fear or faith? Am I rehearsing self-doubt or self-belief? Am I rehearsing criticism or compassion? Because whatever you repeat in silence, you'll end up performing in life. If you want to change the way you show up in the world, change the way you speak to yourself behind closed doors. When no one is watching, speak with respect. Encourage yourself like a mentor would. Forgive yourself like a best friend would. Celebrate yourself like someone who finally understands their own worth. And you'll notice something remarkable. Your energy shifts. You won't need to force confidence. It will flow naturally. You won't need to pretend to be kind. Kindness will echo in your tone. You won't have to try to impress others. Your presence will speak for itself. The greatest performers, speakers, leaders, and healers don't perform for the crowd. They perform for their conscience. They make sure their inner voice applauds before anyone else does. Because they know what you say in private, you display in public. So next time you're alone, remember, that's where your true practice begins. Your mind is listening. Your heart is listening. And the world, sooner or later, will see what you've been saying all along. Why me? That's the question that keeps millions of people stuck. It's the question we whisper in the dark. When life feels unfair, when everything falls apart, when we can't make sense of what's happening. Why did this happen to me? Why am I the one suffering? Why do I have to go through this? It's a human question, honest, emotional, but it's also the question that traps us in pain because era Y looks backward while S, what now, looks forward. You see, every time something painful happens, we have two choices. We can get lost in questioning or we can step into transformation. Why me? Turns us into victims. What now? Turns us into warriors. The first keeps us stuck in the story, the second helps us write a new one. Let's be honest, life will not always make sense. Sometimes you'll be betrayed by people you trusted most. Sometimes opportunities will disappear overnight. Sometimes you'll lose something or someone you thought you could never live without. And when that happens, your mind will search for meaning. But meaning doesn't come from asking, why did this happen to me? It comes from asking, what can I learn from this? What can I build from this? What can I become because of When you say, why me? Your energy moves inward toward self-pity, resentment, frustration. But when you say, "What now?" your energy moves outward, toward action, healing, growth. That one shift in self-talk turns a wound into wisdom. Think of it like standing at a crossroads in your mind. Why me? Leads to a circle. You keep walking in the same emotional loop: anger, blame, sorrow, confusion. What now? Opens a path. It leads you somewhere new, even if you don't know exactly where yet, because a movement is healing, and the question, what now, creates movement. Many of the strongest, most compassionate people you'll ever meet didn't have easy lives. They didn't rise from comfort, they rose from chaos. But what makes them different isn't that life spared them, it's that they changed their question. They stopped asking, "Why me?"